Maybe now let's move to Ecuador. Gabriel, maybe you can talk us through your production forecast for 2021.
Sure.
Kind of
the end of 2020, Ecuador had a 7% growth in their numbers, and when we're talking about production and Ecuador's numbers, we always have to separate the two, because Ecuador's numbers that are projected and published everywhere are export numbers. They are not production numbers. So it's always very important to make a separation and say, okay, so Ecuador increased 7% in their exports in 2020. What did they export? Because if we exported head on, of course, that number could match, the export number could match the production number. But in the case of 2020, as everybody mentioned, in the initial 6 months, all of the food service restaurants shut down. And that was our main production item. So that cost that our export product had to change. So we shifted from doing head-on and headless blocks to doing more value-added. So towards the end of the year, we actually increased our value-added production for 2020. And if we take that into consideration, Ecuador's export volume increased 7%, but our production increased 11 to 12% based on just production numbers and the amount of product that was peeled. So from that, we can say for 2021, there will be, of course, a redirection in the type of product we are doing, because the pandemic is still going on and we have to sell the product. The product that we were producing in the past is no longer a hot item in demand. So whatever the world is demanding, we cannot ignore the changes, ignore the need for value added, ignore how our market was affected as well. So we are definitely this year going to start to peel more, and it could be a bit, as far as production output, we feel we think we're strong, confident that we're going to grow between 5 to 10% in our production numbers. Now, in our export numbers, that's a whole different story, and we would have to analyze the export data that Ecuador posts to review if that number is actually possible, right? Because maybe the export numbers that Ecuador publishes will show that we're doing about the same as last year, but we are actually peeling a much higher percentage and leaving and not exporting in Ecuador the heads and the shells.
Roughly speaking, how much do you think of the production will be peeled in 2021 compared to 2020?
Well, I already saw an increase from 20, and I'm going to go back to 2019 to 2020 and then to 2021. In 2019, we peeled about 240 million pounds of raw material. Okay. We peeled about 350 to 360 million pounds of raw material in 2020. I expect that number to go up to 450 million pounds in 2021. So at least 1/3 of our export will be peeled. Well, when you do it in export numbers and you take the heads off, it'll probably be 300. It'll be 1/5. We're probably gonna do 1/5 exported, which actually means a lot more when you put the heads back on in production.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, interesting. And then looking beyond 2021, do you think that the growth in Ecuador can be sustained? And do you see that 1 million metric tons as a kind of viable target with the current kind of industry model and approach, or do you think there has to be changes to the way things are done in the industry to kind of to go to that level?
Well, in order to see a growth and reaching the 1 million metric tons, you need to have a healthy market, and you have to have a healthy demand. So you have to be able to sell everything that you're producing comfortably, enough so that the farmers are motivated, earn money, and keep on investing to grow. As far as land, Ecuador's growth has not been in building land. There are very few changes in certain lands. We have banana farms that are converted into shrimp farms. It takes a lot of time and investment. But our growth has been in the same ponds in productivity. We are not talking about intensive, but we are seeding a little bit more. Instead of 8 animals per square meter, up to maybe 15 animals per square meter. So that's almost double density from what we were doing in the past. If we expect the pandemic to calm down, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but we have vaccines all over the world. You're starting to see some effect. What we sell is a block of shrimp. So we sell head-on and headless block frozen as Ecuador. That's our main item. When that market shut down last year, our price was affected, right? But as soon as the restaurants start to open up again, they're going to demand that same product that they were demanding back into 2020. So there's a market, a complete part of the market that is shut down, and that's our main customer for the past, not for the future, because we already have orders in for more value added than we can produce, just because everybody was late, everybody was backed up. So Ecuador as a whole ramped up their value added production, and we can and will do the value added. Of course, it makes sense to do value added when you have it, but our factories were set up to do head on. So for us to see an important growth and reach the 1 million metric tons, if it wasn't because of COVID, I would have said that in 2022 we would have been in the 1 million metric tons. We were well on our way. In 2020, we started the year with 26% growth in the first 3 months. If we kept that number, we would have been there in 2022. So we have the know-how. We just need the market to be with us. And COVID took the market away from us. So definitely, I mean, this year, of course, we're going to peel more and more, and we just have to watch that number between export statistics, which is exported product, and production statistics from Ecuador, just because Ecuador, the way they post numbers is not production numbers.
Gabriel, over to you. You wanted to make a point about Ecuador.
Yes, when we were talking about the production, sorry, I go back to production, but Mr. Robbins mentioned that in Thailand, the production was growing steadily, 20%, 25% a year, and then suddenly they dropped. But the difference between Ecuador and Thailand is that we are seeding 15 animals per square meter and producing 3 tons per year per hectare in the best case scenario, or in the average, not in the best case scenario. There's some farms that are producing a little better than that, but I don't think we are anywhere near our capacity and density to run into a downfall like it was in Thailand. I think that the growth in Thailand was much more aggressive. I think that our growth and Ecuadorian growth, even though it seems aggressive in numbers just because it climbs every year, I think it's very steady. It's very healthy. It looks very healthy from where I'm standing. I mean, we go to the farms, seeding 15 animals per square meter. Yes, we're doing aeration. We've improved our pumps, our water pumps. That's 70% of the work right there. And we're not intensifying. It's very rare you find somebody seeding over 50 animals per square meter. That's a crazy number here in Ecuador. You say 50 animals per square meter in Ecuador, it's wow, that's way too much. Watch out. Nobody's even trying that. I mean, if we're talking about 15 animals per square meter, it's still not a lot of density. I mean, I think you'd agree with me on that one.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Gabriel. Yeah, good point to make. I also wanted to ask you about the pricing outlook in Ecuador. I mean, obviously the prices have really dropped, further than other production countries due to, I suppose, the historical, strong exports to China. But do you envisage that that's going to happen, stay the case over the course of this year? And has the farming industry, kind of set itself up so that they can still make money at this price level?
Well, 2020 was as I mentioned before, it was a horrible year because for us, because the product that we were doing was shut down. The product form that we were supplying to the world, we were supplying China in blocks, we were supplying the USA in blocks, we were supplying Europe in blocks, and our product form was shut down. That's what COVID hit. COVID did not hit value added IQF bags. It increased it exponentially. Retail is they're using they're using new recipes all the time, finding it online, whatever it is, and the consumption is there. The product is being consumed. We were just selling the wrong product. So yes, our prices for our selling scheme, our selling format was the most affected, I would say, of all the world. Right? We are constantly producing. We have shrimp all year round. And during the first half of 2020, COVID shut down the demand. It literally put a plug on demand and said there's no more demand because Italy shut down, France shut down, Spain shut down, the US shut down after March X or April, right? So all of the demand when we were producing was shut down. Nobody else is producing their most shrimp during that season. That's our big season is 12 months of the year. Other people have big seasons after June, after May, and then Central America comes in very late in April. So our product was the most hit. That's why our price went down the furthest. That's why our price is still the lowest, because it went down the furthest. So you have to bring it up gradually, and we have to increase our breakdowns of products that we are producing. We cannot continue to produce blocks when people cannot use blocks. You don't take a block of 5-pound shrimp when you're a 2-people family and bring it home, because then you would have to thaw out the block and put another block back into the fridge, right? You need not 1 extra fridge, 7 extra fridges to keep products if you were taking them in blocks. So yes, our prices were hit the most. Now, what happened after that is we started to do value added. The market is getting back on its feet. We had, of course, the problems that everybody knows we had in China with COVID and white spot and all of that story. For me, China is clearly trying to protect local farmers. That makes a lot of sense. You want to protect your own production, so you want to keep as much of the imports limited as much as possible, and with sanitary restrictions, with whatever you can to keep your local production and to motivate your local producers, which is important and it's good. But they still need shrimp. Their purchases in December from Ecuador were very low. In January, very low. We're talking 28 million pounds, of which some is going for reprocess and some is going for consumption, maybe 20 million pounds out of Ecuador when they were buying 70 million. So there's 2 things to note about that. The first is Ecuador clearly found another place to put their shrimp. That's the first thing. And that's the very most important thing, is we were very heavy into that market and we found a different place to put our shrimp.
Yeah, maybe I'm just asking Robbins, I want to ask you really about your views on potential for consolidation to take place in the Ecuadorian farming sector. I mean, do you think that this situation could drive more of that amongst farming? I think it's probably unlikely amongst the packing industry because it's quite consolidated anyway, but maybe you might have a view on that.
Well, there's definitely some people, some farms that are less profitable than others. Some farms are losing money. The farms that are located in more difficult areas, it's not a high percentage of farms. But if you have a farm that is losing money, you're going to look to try and find somebody to consolidate with, or to somebody to help you produce. Whoever is producing profitably maybe can teach you how to produce profitably. I don't think we're at that point yet in Ecuador. I think that that's not a 2021 kind of picture. And from the first 60 days, with the increases in prices locally, I think that farmers get motivated, and then as they get motivated, they get farther away from that idea of consolidating. Nobody consolidates when they're making enough money or they're making money. So I think that could have been an option if COVID, if the situation or the market as it was in 2020 would remain. But I think it's not. I think we're already seeing a lot of improvements in the market in the past 6 weeks.
Interesting. I mean, Gabriel, have you got anything to add on your sort of your business plans for this year and what you're looking to do?
For 2021, the idea is to go back to where we were producing as far as stocking density in our own farms. In 2020 we actually decreased the density of our farms. There's some people that increased them to be able to cope with the low prices, and some others decreased them and tried to find other ways to decrease their costs, because we had to, with the prices that were going on, we had to decrease our prices, our costs significantly in order to survive. So this year we're going to try and go back, once we've restructured our fixed costs, try to go back to seeding a little more like we were in the past, 12 animals, 13 animals per square meter, that we did in the beginning of 2020, and continue on with that. The other thing that's been great in Ecuador is that we were growing usually between 1.4 and 1.5 grams per week, and today that's up to 1.8, 1.9 grams per week. So that's another one of the factors that is important for us as far as production. I know other places grow much more, they grow better, but we're taking it step by step and quite slowly.
Well, let's get to some questions from the audience, because we've had some good ones come in. Question here from Tony Watkinson in the UK, from Laborie Fine Foods. What are the panel's general views on prices for 2020 for Vaname, and specifically for AS certified Vaname material? And are there any views on certified growth, on growth of certified production, specifically ASC? So I don't know who'd like to take that. Maybe someone can jump in there. Gabriel, do you have a view, seeing as Ecuador is doing decent volumes of ASC? Is that likely to increase?
I think that the prices throughout, they have, if you take Ecuador into consideration, it'll be much different than every other part of the world, because the other prices did not drop as much as Ecuador. So for us, yes, prices will increase, but I don't think that for the rest, we have to catch up to the rest of the world, is what I'm trying to say. Our prices were so low that we have to catch up to the rest of the world. So I think that yes, for Ecuadorians, price will increase, not necessarily for the rest of the world. We're just going to catch them to the levels that they were.
Manoj. Okay, we've got a question here from Juan Manuel Reyes from Euracua Trading in Spain. What is your opinion about the possible evolution of export sales prices from Ecuador to China? Will the Ecuadorian farming industry continue to lose money? I guess, Gabriel, you're the man to take this.
The first part is will we return to China? I think yes. I don't think we're going to return to China in the volumes that we were in the past, but China is definitely an important market for us. And even though we have decreased our volume there, our presence is well accepted among consumers. So they want our product. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it, will we continue to lose money to sell to China? We're not losing money to sell to China. Otherwise, we wouldn't have grown what we grew. So if you were losing money, you don't grow and lose more money every year, because it just doesn't fall out of the tree. You have to turn a profit. So we found a way to be profitable selling to China head on. Yes, over the years, they have crunched our margins. And prices have decreased every year after our volume has increased. But I think it's fair to say that we are definitely going to be in China, and we are going to continue to supply China. Maybe not as much, and hopefully not as much as we were supplying them before, just because of a weight issue, of a balance in your exports. You want to be balanced. You want to take, in my opinion, we want to have China, USA, or be it 25, 25, 25, and find others in a 25%, something like that. So I think that we are going to go back into China for sure, and we're going to be strong there as well.
Thanks, Gabriel. Got a question here from Oliver Giblin from Sea Products International. In what way, if any, will the projections of the speakers for 2021 and in the longer term be affected by the availability or lack of labour supply? Value added in many cases requires additional labour and appears a crucial development area as raw material supply increases. Does anyone want to chip in there on, how like the lack of labour could actually impact this development? I guess maybe it would be particularly interesting to hear from India and Ecuador on that, because obviously labour is an issue in Ecuador, right? The cost of.
Well, yeah. So in Ecuador, one of our biggest issues throughout the past, and it's always been an issue, is that Ecuador is dollarized. So our factories have a high cost of producing value-added items. Now, when we found a way to sell our product without doing value-added, it was perfect and fine. But now we have to tweak our production system and our factories to find a way to produce cost-effective, competitive value-added to be able to sell to the other markets. So even though it's an issue, we're going to work our way around the issue. We're going to find a way, and we are already. I mean, it's clear that Ecuador in the last 6 months of the last year had a great increase in the United States. We increased from sending 20 million pounds in the high. Now we're sending 34 million pounds. We ended the year with 50% more exports to the USA. So if you look at it from the export point of view, we're clearly stepping into the value added, and we're doing a fair job in it.
Leaders asking, will Ecuador get to the 1 million metric tons sooner than India? Which I guess it'd be good to get everybody to give an answer to that, and then also, if you don't think it's going to be Ecuador or India, say who it's going to be. I mean, Robbins, you've already kind of talked about Vietnam earlier, but I think that would be a good way to finish if everybody goes around and gives their opinion on that question. Gabriel, what about you? I guess you're going to say Ecuador already, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I think that we were on our way without COVID. We were on our way. Our production matrix, our farms, our factories more than everything was suited in a non-COVID world to reach the 1 million mark quickly. We were going to get there. I mean, 25%. Yes, last year we were already talking 25% growth, and it wasn't a crazy growth. I think that India, of course, has the capacity to do it. I think that if Vietnam becomes if their intensive projects are developed, it's a race to getting to the 1 million mark. I think it's a race to keeping this as profitable as possible so that we keep supply there. The world demand is there, and it keeps on growing. Let's grow with demand, and let's not get crazy and look for marks or 1 millions or 2 millions or 1.6s or 1.4s. Everybody who's producing today has gone through hardship, has gone through difficulties, have gone through disease, through all sorts of problems. And we're all still here, and we're all strong, and we're all coming back year after year with better numbers. We have our downs, we have our ups, but eventually we get back on place. And I think it's just, let's keep the world supply where it is. Let's keep it increasing healthy. Let's stay here. The demand is there. If there is no drop suddenly from anybody, the price will gradually follow us. If there's a drop, of course, you'll see a bloop in the market. And yeah, if somebody drops 5-10% and they weren't expected to drop, we'll see it in the market. We'll see it immediately. This world market, the supply and demand world market, when something varies 1%, you feel it in the other side of the world. If India is down 1% for some reason on some item on a 3140 P&D, I feel it the next day. If somebody was out there to book 15 loads that night and they didn't, they come back the next day and the next morning to us. And they say, listen, I was going to book this in India and I couldn't. Can I get 15 loads of this? It's all connected. So we need to keep growing steadily with demand. And we need to do as much efforts as possible to grow demand. Publicity, proper publicity, sustainability, the whole works. We just need supply to keep on growing with us. We know and we believe in our protein. That's why we're here. Everybody who's here, I think, loves this protein and loves this shrimp. So we love and believe in it. Let's not get crazy with marks. Nobody wants to win. We just want to supply it properly.